And so I think that the problem is right now, right, again, we're dealing with these scenarios where we're all talking about right now, right? But there's been a gradual shift to this point. Men weren't non-emotional. They still came home and listened to their wives, right? But really, at the end of the day, in a traditional home, your man comes home, you make sure he's got his dinner and a drink. You ask him how his day was first. You let him, right? And then you go and you do your,
Oh Lord, yeah, that's so like I couldn't do that now.
I get, but exactly
Yes,
that.
I'm a
Like,
bad wife.
no, and
I didn't ask him about it, but to your point about trusting leadership, I definitely recognize that because I'm very much independent in many ways, that I do struggle with the words of affirmation part of my relationship. And we talked about it I made a whole post about it. Because so he is still a man, like you're right, he is still a man, and he definitely does need that praise. And it took some time for me. And I think a lot of women struggle with this, like even in their current relationships or like further like future relationships where, my initial thought was like, oh my God, like, why do you need to be praised? Or like, I fucking don't. So why do you? And I feel like a lot of women probably feel like that. And so it doesn't feel like we're not perceiving it as an emotional need. We're perceiving it as whining, even though it's not whining. It's just their version of showing an emotional need. It's like, I need you to tell me I'm doing a good job because it makes me feel good. Just like you want to get told you look great in that dress because it makes you feel good. And I'm like,
absolutely.
we're just not seeing it that same way. But I'm like, that's what I'm saying. Like, gotta be on the same team because if we're not on the same team, it's not going to look like that. I'm gonna look.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, we're on the same team. So yes, I'm not saying, we can't categorize men as all the same as just these like great big brutes that can't have a conversation. No, like we as women, we've also been so quick to just, because nowadays that's just how things are, but really it's up to us to make things how they are. So the reality is we just hop into like these relationships and we immediately start, feeling like, okay, as a woman, most women, there's very few women, let's be serious about it. There's very few women who can sleep around and not have an emotional attachment.
Oh yeah.
Okay. The reality is, right? I'm not saying there's none, but like you said at the beginning, I think it was you, Joy, you mentioned that more women will die alone after their husband passes than a man, right? We have these emotional attachments. And here's a perfect example. Every time we sleep with someone, okay, we become spiritually attached to them. Okay. Every single time you're allowing someone to, as a woman, you're allowing someone to enter your body. As a man, you're entering someone's body. This is a spiritual exchange. This is not just a physical exchange. And so the best way to put it is, you know, if you've ever slept with someone and you like didn't really care about them, you didn't really want to be with them, like whatever after the fact or whatever it was, maybe it was just a fun night. But now you're like scrolling through your feed and you see like they just got married. Even if you don't give a shit about them, somewhere in your heart, you're like, you have this
You gave
little
a
like,
piece of yourself. You gave a piece of
right,
yourself.
right. And it doesn't matter if you didn't even care about that person, right? And guys have the
It's
same
different
thing.
for a woman.
It's
The
it's
guy doesn't feel like that.
some guys
Right?
do, they won't admit it. They will
It's
not
like that
admit it.
feeling of I wasn't chosen. It doesn't matter that I didn't want you. The fact is you didn't choose me. I wasn't chosen.
And men do the same thing though, because some men go, well, I wasn't good enough for her. I couldn't give her what she wanted, right? There's a lot of men who are going to walk around and here's their emotional side. F her, blah, 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 blah. She was needy. She was this, she was that. That's their emotional side. Their emotions come out differently, right? So we read the emotions completely differently. And it goes back to that needing to be needed, right? If they feel like they weren't needed and a woman just moves on too fast, oh, whatever, she just ran off. It's because they're like, oh shit, I couldn't give her what she wanted. A lot of them will. I'm not, again, this is not a static fact across the board for all men and women, but the majority of women, we always will have that spiritual connection, right? So now, if you go down the line and you realize now today's society, we just kind of casually sleep with people and that's deemed okay in today's society because we've made it this like okay thing to do. We've also stopped looking for compatible partners because we're just looking to get off. So we stop looking for the things that actually matter in terms of finding a stable partner, not just financially, not just physically,
Yeah.
but
I don't.
mentally.
I do not envy those in the dating pool. I'm not gonna lie. It's
Yeah.
wild out there. Wild.
Because it's all online.
This is
So
going
it's
to be
just
a
like,
whole podcast series for you guys coming up.
This
hey,
is super
yeah.
fun though. This is super fun though. I think
Yeah.
I think that when it comes, like, at least for like just the healing side of things, I think women would do best to heal from from the obvious resentment of like having had maybe a lot of them in the traditional roles that they maybe didn't go in the way that they like. Where it's like, yeah, they like being a stay at home, but it didn't feel like they were appreciated or seen as an equitable partner. And then having men heal from the being able to like the inability to feel like seeing it as adapting and not regressing. It's like women need to like heal the resentment, and men need to get with adapting and not seeing adapting as regression.
Yeah.
I think those two things happen simultaneously will lead to unified growth. I think
an interesting thing though is that both of what you're saying actually would bring us back to more of a traditional space, because women still had a lot of respect back then. If you held yourself up and you were doing your job and you were like, there was a lot of respect to women who did that, right? And so it's interesting because, like you said, if we brought men back to that place, they still had to deal with their woman's emotions. They still had to deal with the emotion of being the family provider. Like, there's still a lot that goes into that. So bringing, like, moving forward is almost moving back as well at the same time, right? Because what we're doing is we're healing from this weird century of like twisted, like, let's see and experiment with the family unit. Because sooner or later, if I don't know, like, you're in your 30s, I'm in my 30s. Joy, I'm not sure where you're in your 30s as well, I'm guessing.
I don't say my age, but yeah.
That's fine.
why, girl, you age gracefully. You better stop playing.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I wouldn't put you past like 35, but we haven't actually said that. So, but I would assume we're all in that kind of age range where at the end of the day, we have been raised in this bubble where, like, you're a 90s baby, right? In the 90s, women were like the powerhouse, get the career, get this, yada yada, right? And they were like getting in there, but then they still were like coming home and taking care of their kids, and they still wanted to be married, and they still wanted to have families. Whereas now, the like modern feminists, I find like a lot of women are, like I said before, are like, oh well, if I want to have kids, I don't need a man, I can do it myself. Or if I don't even want to have kids, what's the point? I just want to have a career. And it's like they almost forgot their, and forgive me, because,
anything wrong with that.
well, and I'm not saying it's your only value, but what I am saying is that we've completely lost the value of actually our God-given purpose. God gave us a purpose here on this earth, or however you want to say it, the creator, the universe. We were put on this earth at the end of the day to procreate. And in order to procreate, we need to have our children fed and taken care of. Our offspring need to be taken care of in the best settings ever, to make sure that the food is prepared and taken care of. They have the best education. They have all these things, but it also requires resources, and it requires protection. So we forgot that those roles actually just meld together so properly. And I don't know, I think that
What
there's,
about the people? What about the people that can't have kids, or like I said about that they leave the house and then you've got the empty nest? Then what would you say? Or you were saying that you would be okay by the pool with the drink, with the mimosa or whatever. Like now
I
that
mean,
the kids are gone.
I'm exaggerating. Like, I would probably do like a little, I would still be running business or doing whatever, but I
Okay.
still feel like, I don't need to shine brighter than my husband. And I feel like that's where modern day feminism has brought it, that the woman has got to be the big shot, and that it's gotten to the point that women don't even want men. Like, a lot of women don't even want to be in relationships anymore because they would
Because
rather
they keep
be
getting hurt.
self-serving. But they keep
And
getting hurt because they forget that their role is to give, and just as the men, and the men, it's a vicious cycle. On the flip side of that, the men don't want to give to women who keep telling them that they can go get it themselves. They're like, all right, bitch, go get it then. Excuse my language, and I don't want to, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's like, if you're going to tell me I'm not needed, then yeah, sure, let me keep all my money over here for a female who wants to respect the fact that I work for what I have, and a female who respects the fact that I'm willing to share and give everything to her and take care of her, because that's what a real, like, in my opinion, that's what real traditional roles are, is that the woman actually is getting a lot more. And if you actually look even in like Islamic culture, um, usually the man will make money, and like a woman can make money too, or she could come from money, but that money is not to be touched by her husband. In fact, it's shameful if he even tries to touch her money. He should be trying to make more than her, and he should be trying to make sure that his family is taken care of, right? And if that woman has money, it should just be put aside. And if the man has money, he should be making sure that the woman is putting some aside. Again, as a woman, you have to have business sense to be as a housewife as well. You can't just be a bubbling idiot. You still have to, you know, seriously,
Yeah.
seriously, because you're a fucking liability. Men think in numbers. You become a liability. You're not an asset, but you become an asset, and you become valuable when you can make sure that, yeah, guess what? I'm not just cooking you your meal. It's not just cooking you your meal. I am making sure that you are getting the correct nutrients in order for your body to sustain. And guess what? You're giving me those ingredients. You're giving me the resources to go make sure that we have those top notch, top quality ingredients so that we can be healthy, so we prolong our lives. I'm not just cleaning your house. I'm making an environment where you can think clearly, as can I, as can the children, that we're not worried about clutter and mess. I'm doing all these little roles. Your laundry, okay, who cares? Men can do laundry too, but at the same time, I'm doing your laundry because it's one less thing for you to worry about when you're worrying about what the hell is going on with that business deal that you're trying to close. That shit that I don't want to be a part of. And trust me, I'm in business deals and I deal with men. I'm in finance. It's a male dominated field, especially in
Yeah.
crypto, right? So I deal with men and I see, you know what I mean? Whereas my ex would walk into meetings and guys would talk to him differently. Even if I knew more about something than he did, he would get a different response. So I'm sitting here fighting, clawing to like just prove that like I can be that boss babe, when it's like, nah, babe, you go be the boss. I'm cool. Like I'm gonna be at home, and I'm gonna still be at home, and you know, we're gonna talk, because at the end of the day, when you get home from work, you're gonna sit down and tell me about your day. And as your woman, I'm gonna tell you, yeah, babe, that sounds great. Ooh, I don't know, babe. What did you think about that? Because it's also my job as a woman, right? Not to make the decision. But the one thing that my grandma taught me, and I haven't mastered this at all. She taught it to me. I'm not good at it. But you make them think it's their idea. And that's where you have more power.
That's in business too. We say that too. Like as a client, you make it seem like it's their idea and then they buy.
And you actually have more power than you think, because you actually are controlling the environment that man goes to bed at night. Everything from what he's eating in that home, to how well he's sleeping, to how relaxed he is in that home, determines how well he can go and perform the next day in his job to bring home the bacon or whatever. You know what I mean? To take care, right? So, and I think
Yeah.
also it's important for children to see, you know, a man's love. We're not, again, I don't want to put it on, I think there's that emotional disconnect nowadays. I think there's a huge emotional disconnect with men nowadays. And I think it has to also do with the fact that no, we haven't taught them to reverse their roles quite, or where they even fit, because all we've been doing is pushing them completely out of the way as women. We're just get out. We're just dividing them. We're just getting in between and dividing. We're not actually bringing anyone together with that. So, and that's our job as women. We are the people who bring life into this world. We bring life into this world. It's our job to bring things together to create life.
So it almost seems like in a way you're like almost saying it's like we have control in the relationship in a sense, where even though do you believe in equality in a male female role, or do you think that the man is the head of the house, and but you secretly hold the control and hold it all together?
So it's interesting, right? The man can be the head of the house, but you could be the neck.
Holding the head up.
You hold the
You're
head
the
up.
base of the pyramid.
You are the base, and you are the one controlling the movement of the head.
What about you, Joy? What about you? Are you the neck and head, or is it just head and head? For you.
Head and head is good.
Oh, because yeah, you're a
I
single
didn't mean
mom.
the pun. I'm sorry. Sorry. Because that's how it is with me and him. Like, it's not, that's the thing. We don't, at least with me and my partner, we just see each other as things can change. And when they change, we adapt and grow. It's just the flexibility feels freeing. Nothing feels so definitive. Nothing feels so. We both have ADHD, so we both grew up in scenarios where we just feel like if you don't fit in this box, you're a fuck up. No matter what the box was, no matter what the task was, no matter what the thing was, if you didn't fit perfectly in it, you're a fuck up. So it's just me and him just don't like to adhere to anything really. We're just like, what works for us right now. And at some point, if for whatever reason it doesn't work for us, then we'll adapt and change to what does. And then we just be flexible until the day we die.
Can I ask you in that role, because you said you'd be flexible? Let's say you know, God willing, end up with children, right? And you get to experience that side. Would you be comfortable being the breadwinner completely and allowing your partner to be home with the child all day? Would you be comfortable, or would you feel, I don't know, fulfilled as a mother if you were the one that's breadwinning and everything, but you're not spending time in the home raising your child?
So in my mind, in that specific scenario, no. But I would also not look for a job that doesn't give me a good work-life balance. And I told him that exact same thing as well. Right now, you know, it was his last day of work because his job is relocating. So I am the current breadwinner right now, and I'm loving it. But when we do have kids, I told him the only definitive way I will be giving him children is if he can guarantee he finds a job that gives him a work-life balance, and not sooner than that. Because frankly, I will not be made to feel like a single mother in my house. I'm not doing it. There's not enough Facebook reels on the fucking planet where the comment section isn't riddled with married couples, with women who are fucking miserable because they literally feel like they're just doing everything. Like, I'm not saying having a job is not hard, but a job comes with regular tasks on a day-to-day. Someone above you tells you what to do. There's things that you realistically, logically, deliberately know exactly what to be doing. And then once 5 o'clock comes out, or whatever the fucking time comes, you clock it out, and it's not to be worried about until the next day. As a mother, as a parent, that is not the case. You are on parent mode, even while your children are sleeping, even while you are sleeping. And it's just, for a lot of these women, that's just how they feel. They just feel like they're on all day, every day. I've seen reels where there's women literally crying, like in the camera, going like, I love my daughter, but all I want to do is take a fucking shower. The thought of that is horrifying to me, quite frankly. So if he can find a job that gives a great work-life balance where we both feel like equitable parents in this household, I would be happy to give him as many fucking kids as he thinks he can handle.
It's hard. It's a hard job.
That being said, though, then the reality is, what you're telling me is that you need someone to be your protector and provider in the time that you're needing to focus on raising a baby, because that in itself is full time. And even though it's a highly emotional and highly stressful job, the only reason you would feel like a single parent later is if you also had to have a job. So not only are you sitting there taking care of the baby all day, but you also have to work, and you have to find a work-life balance. Like I'm sorry, I feel like work-life balance is kind of a scam when it comes to like this parenthood shit. It really is.
I think I have I mean, like I said, I don't have kids, so I can't speak for that. I think with my current job right now, it definitely does have a great work-life balance for what it is right now. If my boyfriend can find a similar type of position, because I work from home, right? I don't gotta like get up. I don't have to get up, get ready. Like, there's no hours being wasted in my day with commuting and getting dolled up and putting on the right clothes or whatever, and commuting back home in rush hour, which is like a good 2 hours out of the 8 hours you're at this, 16 hours of your awakeness anyway, which is terrible. But like, you know, I just wouldn't want to feel like it's just always me with the children. Like, I want to feel like I have a life. I want to be able to see my friends. I want to be able to have adult conversations. I want to be able to have alone time and have mental healthness, like time for myself. Like, me and my partner both have ADHD, so our mental health threshold is not like, you know, it's kind of like already faulted as a default. It's faulted as a default, and we're still trying to figure out what that even looks like. And you know, and even outside of just our particular brand of neurotypicalness, you know, neurodiversity, right? What about for the autistic moms, the auditory processing moms, sensory disorder moms? Like, there's moms out there with these things, and it's like, if they're just the only person with these children, like, that is exhausting on a day-to-day basis, right? If you're at a job for most likely like 10 plus years, unless you like moved up in roles or changed roles, whatever, like, you know the role at the back of your hand at this point. But with the kid, it's not like that. There's 1-year-old completely different from 2-year-old, completely different from 3-year-old, completely different from 16, completely different from 12. It's like it's always throwing you another fucking curveball that the mom, the person in the home, has to keep adapting to over and over and over again. Whereas in a regular job position, like, it's not so much changing. Like, yeah, you might get one email that's like, all right, we're rolling out these changes, like, get used to it. And it's like, okay, well, then the next email is going to be like a year, like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever.
But regardless if you're working or not, like, those issues are going to arise in parenting. So, I mean, and I think it's interesting how you're saying that, because a lot of the younger generation right now keeps saying these things and they don't want kids. It's later and later and later that we're pushing having kids, right? And the problem is, I'm frozen again, but oh, are we all frozen?
No, sorry, just one second.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh, what happened here?
Just turn it on in a sec.
But you know, I think that the thing is that sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
You're talking about the younger generation and how
Yeah, oh yeah. So they keep pushing having kids because they have this idea that there's gonna be the right scenario if they're more, you know what I mean? Okay, we're more adapted and we've figured out how to make more money, or if my relationship is better, or whatever the situations are. But the truth is, the further they push it back, the less likely they want to have kids, because now they're just that much further into their career. They're just that much further into this lifestyle that they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to incorporate a child, right? And the thing is, again, I have to go back to, those are all self-serving qualities. Those are all feeding the ego that pulls so far away from, in my belief, you know what I mean, that the Most High gave us these ordained positions, these roles that are deeper and far greater than working a job and going to work for someone. Yes, we should be building things at all times. And it, you know, I'm a little more scriptural, but it does say that in scripture. We are supposed to be working. We are supposed to be putting our efforts in. We are supposed to be building and contributing and growing. Be fruitful and multiply. Be fruitful. Go and grow your gardens. Go build your assets, build your bank, all of that. But the problem is now is that we've forgotten that that's not all that's important. And so the younger generation, like, and it's not you, but it's certain little things that you were saying, and it kind of leads into like the more extreme, which is happening in the next generation. And I guess that's why I kind of get nervous about this, and why I wanted to talk about this, is because those extremes of, we don't need a man to have a kid, we can do it on our own, or we don't want to have children. Make this make sense. First of all, we don't need a man. Yes, you fucking do. I don't care what world you live in, you need sperm. So you definitely need a man to have a child. Like, just start there. Secondly, no single mother, very few, I would say 99% of single mothers in this world did not want to be a single mother. They don't. It's the reality.
Yeah.
They don't, no one chooses. There's very few people who choose to be a single parent, because you're not meant to be raising a child alone. You're meant to be raising your child in a village, multi-generational households. You know what I mean? With two parents in the household, because there are so much task and role that goes into raising a child. And again, we aren't praised as women for doing those things one of the reasons, like you said, is we don't always ask for praise. We don't need praise. We don't need praise. We're just doing it because that's what we're here for. Even if we can do other things, biologically, we're mentally, hormonally, and physically made for that job, right? So when we just keep thinking like, oh, we don't need a man, and I'm not saying you, I'm speaking kind of on, I've seen through threads, and you know what, I actually have commented things about being more traditional on like threads on Instagram, and I still see people like, honestly, I have one that's like, I posted like 9 months ago, and people are still commenting on my one comment. Like, it's like, what the
Really?
hell? I forgot I wrote this. Like, I'm not even the same person anymore.
I wish I could read, yeah.
I
But
think definitely, well, I mean, at least for me personally, because I mean, definitely there's a lot of myriad of probably selfish reasons why people don't want kids. But for me, it was really like, I mean, it wasn't before until I met him that I was like, you know what, I think I could do this parenting thing. Like, because from 18 to like 25, I was like actively engaged in like looking to get my uterus removed. That wasn't happening, obviously. But I was also in a very depressive state. And now that I'm on my healing journey, quite far along in it, it's like you can't make sound decisions when you're in a mentally fucked up state. So, and am I saying that the choice to not want a kid is that a mentally fucked up decision? No. I think people need to evaluate the real reason why. Like, what is the real reason why? Like, if you're having difficulty finding a trusting partner, that's a legitimate reason to not want to have a kid, because being a single parent is fucking hard. I wouldn't want that. Like, that shit's hard. So it's like, that's do you feel like you do not have, for whatever reason, between you and your partner, like, do you feel like you don't have like just the income for it? And it's like, all right, that's a legitimate reason, whatever. Or do you feel like you're not mentally healthy enough, or haven't done the work to be mentally healthy enough to not repeat the same shit that you didn't like in your childhood? Then it's like, that's also a very legit reason to not have a kid. Because there's too many people out here having them because they want the unconditional love they should have gotten from their parents, or
Yeah.
because they're thinking like, it's as cute as a puppy, and I'm like, you can give a puppy back, you can't give a kid back.
Or you can have people have kids just to turn them into little workhorses and make them do the chores around the house.
You know what I mean? I mean, and this, I don't know if it's just a Hispanic community thing, but I have heard a million times, like, who's going to take care of you when you're older? I'm like, that's not a legitimate reason to have kids.
You're right. I have heard that.
Because at the end of the day, these kids, the moment they come out of you, they are not you. They're going to be little people with their own thoughts and feelings, their own influential whatevers. They're going to make their own friendships. They're going to make their own relationships. And they're going to be out in the world taking whatever you taught and guide them and spreading it to the rest of the humanity. This is what children grow up into. So when people have kids with anything else other than that in mind, it's like, what did you do? What, you already done fucked up? Like, what was the point? Like, are you trying to control this is a little dominion of yours that you're trying to control, to manipulate, to do whatever, to do your bidding of, I might not have a 401k, but I'm sure gonna have a TikTok child making all this money. Like, there's weird ass parents out there doing this. There's literally entire now thought pieces of the children of TikTok who are now adults going,
the children of the corn.
Yeah, like they're coming out saying like how their parents were so fucked, because you would have parents saying to like age children going like, we're not going to have nice things if you don't get on this TikTok. Like, that's fucking weird, bro. But you have parents doing this out here, treating their children like workhorses, like Joy said, or like as if people who were not asked to be here, who had no decision making in order to
That's
be here,
true.
but suddenly they're just obligated to do whatever the fuck you tell them to. They're obligated to meet. I have found in every single case, unless your child's a fucking psychopath, what I found in every case is when you give your child genuine love, genuine trust, and genuine autonomy, they come back around all on their own. They come back on their own because they're coming to a place that they felt loved, where they didn't feel controlled, they didn't feel manipulated, they didn't feel emotionally void of connection. They were like, you know what? My parents really did their thing. I want to come back and be with them because I like them as people. I no longer just see them as parents. I see them as a grown-ass adult. I see them as people that I like. People who respect me, people who respect my decisions, who trust me to make the right decisions for me, whether they agree with them or not. They trust me enough to know what's good for me, which is, you know what I mean? Like, they come back around. But like, as far as the younger generation not having kids, like I said, you remember that awareness stage I talked about, where it's like, you know what the problem is, but you're not entirely sure how to fix it. That's where a lot of us are at. We're in the awareness stage where it's like, and the thought of having children while in that awareness stage is fucking horrifying. Because now it's like, you know you're fucked up, but you know you didn't fix it, and now you want to add a whole entire being that you're legally responsible for in the mix. I don't know about that one, Chief. Sounds terrifying.